Hello and welcome back to Lawrence Explains Online Academic Tuition. In this video we're going to take a look at question 5 from the English Language GCSE Paper 2. This is a discursive writing question. Okay, so this is a discursive writing question, and I'm going to look at this in some detail. Now, the first thing I would draw your attention to is how many marks are available here. 40 marks, which is the same as the entire previous section. So a big error that people make on this paper is they simply do not leave themselves enough time to actually finish off the paper and get the result that they need to get. So they just leave themselves half an hour for this question. That's a terrible strategy because this question is very heavily weighted in terms of marks. So first of all, you need to make yourself sure that you have enough time. So 45 minutes minimum for this question, as it suggests there. So what we're going to do here is we are going to plan this answer. I'm not going to write the whole answer out, but I'm going to plan it in detail. I'm going to give you some tips of how you can actually structure a question like an answer to a question like this. So it is people who have extraordinary skill, courage and determination who deserve to be famous, not those who have good looks or lots of money or behave badly. Write a letter to the editor of a newspaper in which you argue your point of view in response to this statement. So there's a lot we can do here just in terms of the question and the scenario that has been given to us. It's very important that we acknowledge the scenario here. So a lot of students will just launch into their answer and they won't really recognize the scenario properly. And what is the scenario? We're writing to the editor of a newspaper. Okay, in this case we'll say it's an e-newspaper or a website or what have you, but we're writing to the editor. So it's somebody who is, in a position of authority and a position of responsibility. So I might say, dear sir or madam, or I might make up, a name, dear whatever it is. And then I might even go a step further and say, I'm a long-time reader of whatever the publication is, National Geographic magazine, or there's a newspaper, so of the Guardian newspaper, of the Times newspaper, or just make up a name of a newspaper. It really doesn't matter. And then what I've done there is I've really addressed this scenario, and I can even go a little bit further. I can say, I read, so-and-so's article on fame in which he argued, the following, this quotation, or in which this quote, from which this quotation was taken. So I read this person's article on fame. I have some thoughts to consider. Something along those lines. Sorry, my writing is not great at the moment, but anyway. So already we've got off to quite a powerful start there, because we've responded to the scenario. It's very important to do that, and if you're looking to score good marks in this, be proactive in responding to the scenario. You can be a little bit imaginative here as well. So, dear sir or madam, I'm a long-time reader of this publication. I read this article from, Jessica Smith, in which she argued that it should be people who have great skill, who should be, given fame and fortune and so on. So that will be a good start, and then you can go on to say, and I would like to offer my own thoughts on this issue. Okay, so we've got a whole frame there that just gives us so much information. It gives us so much structure at the beginning of our answer. You might get write a letter to a local politician. You might get write an article for a local newspaper or an article for your school newspaper. It could be any number of different scenarios, but you want to recognize the scenario you're in and address that scenario. Very important thing to do. So now let's go and actually do a few other things as well. So other things that we can do here is to respond very precisely to the article itself. So it's people who have extraordinary skill, courage, and determination who deserve to be famous. The word that stands out to me there, I would encourage you to look at the statement and look at the precision of the language. That word there, deserve, and then famous as well. Deserve to be famous. What I might look at those in a bit more depth, and I'll come back to that in a moment. Not those who have good looks, money, or behave badly. Okay, so some people deserve to be famous, other people don't deserve to be famous. Okay, so the word deserve, I would say, what does that mean? I would question what is the meaning of that. What does that mean? Is this something moral? Is this that they deserve to on a moral level? Or is it, what does this really mean? And does everyone necessarily even want to be famous? People of great courage and skill. There's plenty of examples of people who, couldn't think of anything worse than being famous. So I'll put desire in there as well. So that would be something I would also question. And then this idea that being famous is a positive as well. They deserve to be famous. Is this even a positive? I don't know. This is a question. It has its own pitfalls. So that would be something else I would analyze there just to begin with. So I might say, first of all, I would question the meaning of the word deserve. We're talking about people deserving on a moral basis, and in that case, does everyone who acts, with skill and courage, they even want to be famous? And then the other underlying assumption of the question, there's an assumption in the question that being famous is a positive, which is a big assumption. So those would be a few things I would just look at the beginning, and I'd say there's a couple of assumptions in this question I want to just deconstruct, or in this quotation. And then I would go into, I would go into break down this question a little bit more, and I'd give my kind of angle on it. And what you want to do is you want to give a refined angle. You want to give a refined discussion of this. So recognizing the different potential points of view. So here I would say I would think of some examples. So extraordinary skill, courage, and determination. Well, you're assuming that these people don't get famous. Well, there's plenty of explorers. There's plenty of scientists. Great kind of business. Moguls or business figures who, have done some really impressive things, created really big organizations who do become famous. We all know, famous business people. Bill Gates is well known. Elon Musk is well known. Most people like their products. They think they really changed and improved the world. And so these were people who did show all of these things: skill, courage, determination, and so on. And many of them do become famous. So that maybe be a point I would make as well, that there are people who do show all of these qualities who do become famous. Now there are other people who obviously show these qualities and who never become famous. Policemen, nurses, there's any number of people who show all of these skills, courage, determination. You would hope that every person even at some point in their life is going to be able to show some of these qualities. So that's the other side to it, that not everyone is going to get the kind of recognition. And then the next point here is not those who have good looks, money, or behave badly. So I feel like there's maybe a tone of resentment in this, that, you know, people who have good looks, money, or behave badly shouldn't be well known. Well, I mean, what's the? I don't really see any basis to that argument. What is the basis there? Is it immoral to be good looking? Is it immoral to have lots of money? I suppose it is immoral to behave badly, but the first two, to me, that just kind of there's just a sense of resentment there. But in any case, you could deconstruct that, and you could also say, look, there's many people who are good looking, who have lots of money and behave badly, and most of them are not famous. Most people in prison are not famous. Most people who have a lot of money are not famous. Most good looking people are just a random good looking person walking around the streets. They are not famous. So that would be a kind of challenge to that. And what I would probably say there is it tends to be people who are very good at marketing their looks and exploiting their looks, or, you know, marketing their money, that will tend to become, you know, more well known. People who behave badly, that can obviously become that could become a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. You know, you have like a sort of combat sports people who they're a little bit loopy in general and get punched in the head too many times and start doing crazy things, and, you know, they behave badly, and it makes them more popular. So because it gains more notoriety. So there's a deeper question here of what makes people famous, and it's kind of anything that's notable or unusual or, you know, stimulating for the general public. The fact is, sometimes, you know, bad behavior or just a very good looking person, that can be more interesting and stimulating than maybe other stories. So it's to some extent it's the public that makes the choice. No one forces you to buy into these things. No one forces you to read the magazine, click on the website, etc. So to a large extent, it's really determined by the public. So that would be another aspect I would explore that as well. So there's all these different ideas kind of swirling around. And what I would do for each of these ideas is I would pin them down, and I would try to give examples of each one. So I mean, it's really easy for me to think of bad behavior. You know, you've got, you know, people from the days of Mike Tyson and Conor McGregor, the UFC guy. You know, there's plenty of people who behave badly in the public eye who generate a lot of interest. There was some sports people, but there's lots of musicians who do the same sorts of things as well. There's a rock group, I remember, who were famous for like trashing a room or something of a hotel, and that was almost like what made them, you know, more notorious as their bad behavior. Money and looks are also very easy to give examples for as well. So yeah, those would be, you know, some examples. For each kind of section, you want to try to illustrate the idea as much as you can. So I've just really explored the idea there. I've just explored lots of different ideas. What I would try to do before actually writing my article, I would try and come down on a particular side and think what I really, and really express what I think about this statement. You might agree with the statement, you might disagree with the statement. In my case, I would say I disagree with the assumption of the statement that it's desirable to be famous, and I'm also not sure that it's necessarily about being good looking or having a lot of money or behaving badly. I think it's more about marketing and more about stimulating interest. So that would be my kind of angle there on this statement, and that's how I would explore it. So, you know, dear Sir, Madam, I'm a long-time reader of the Times. I read Josephine Smith's article a few weeks ago in which she discussed, you know, what virtues we should look for in our famous people, And I would really like to challenge the idea that being famous is even important. And I would also say that people who are good looking, have money, or behave badly are not necessarily people who become famous. It's people who are good at marketing whatever they do that become famous, and I'll kind of take the discussion from there. So it says you're advised to plan your answer to question 5 before you write. So I've really just been doing a bit of discussion of different ideas there. I've not really actually given a clear plan. I've just been spitballing ideas, and that's what you want to do. You want to do your plan. I'll write this here in 2 sections. So plan, first part of the section P1, I would just do a spider diagram, a bit like I've done here, generate your ideas. And then part 2 is create an order. So I might go through and go, okay, right, this is my first part here, the frame. Second part here will be like discussing the meaning and challenging some of the ideas here. And then this will be my third part, actually going into the discussion, outlining my ideas. That's just some ideas for section B. I've taken like quite a sophisticated approach there. Maybe in the heat of the exam I might just go, you know what, I'm going to agree with this and I'm going to really forcefully argue for this statement. Or I might go, I disagree with this. I don't think there's I don't think there is anyone who deserves or doesn't deserve to be famous. I just think it's a question of marketing. I would go along with that and argue on that approach. So in the heat of the exam, you might just want to pick one angle or another, or if you feel confident enough, you can take a very refined approach and say, I kind of agree with some aspects, or other aspects I don't agree with. That is a bit of a plan for for section B, the extended discursive writing section. So hopefully that's given you some tips and ideas on how you can approach this section. In my textbook, on my course, I've got a really very, very structured way to approach this section, so you might want to check that out. The book is actually, it's only £10 on Amazon, and there's actually this may be the strongest section in the book actually when I think about it, the discursive writing section. There's a lot of information about discursive writing, and it is important because it's worth half of this whole paper, so it's really worth a lot of your GCSE. So I will leave things there for today. I'll post the links for the book and then also for the course as well if you're interested. I also run a private tuition practice as well for people who are interested in that. You can always get in touch. And I will leave things there. Good luck with your up and coming mock exams.